It's hard to believe we're already on the third installment in this series when it feels like it was only a while ago I was playing Splatoon 1 on my Wii U after high school. Now I'm 26 and I'm writing this review on the third entry, one that arguably closes the gap on my features wish list. Splatoon 3 focuses on expanding the single player campaign with the new sandbox-like overworld, multiple objectives, and plenty of side content, while refining the multiplayer with major quality of life improvements. Despite being a multiplayer-centric game, Splatoon 3, like its predecessors, has a story mode that elaborates on the lore and history of Splatoon. Questions like, why is everyone a squid, what happened to humanity, and so on, were all previously alluded to in other games, but finally get addressed here. Splatoon 3 is the most lore-heavy and story-driven game in the series thus far. It starts off by creating a new character, either an Inkling or an Octoling, that travels to the city of Splatsville. It's there that you meet a few familiar faces from prior games and find yourself becoming the new Agent 3. The story can take you anywhere between 7 to 13 hours depending on how you go about completing the levels. Splatoon 3 makes it easy for players to quickly rush through the main objectives, while also offering side content for challenges and additional lore. The narrative writing is as punny as ever, and even though the dialogue can be a bit cheesy, I was happy to finally get some new information on the history of this world and how it came to be. By the end of it, I had an educated guess on how things came to be with a handful of new questions to theorize on. For those that played prior games, you'll be happy to see a continuation of the story laid out in prior games, along with a few new faces. The world is presented in this sandbox structure that is covered by fuzz. Your friendly sidekick can destroy this harmful material with the use of eggs earned from various levels. As you destroy the fuzz, more of the sandbox will be sprawled out, revealing new levels to tackle and the occasional collectible. That's the general gameplay loop for this new sandbox area that feels somewhat inspired by the open world sandbox of Super Mario 3D World. It works really well in Splatoon. While the prior story modes focused on tutorials and bosses, Splatoon 3 feels like an evolution of that. Yes, the first few levels are very much tutorials, but they do a much better job at showcasing new weapons, mechanics, and strategies that can be essential for multiplayer play. More importantly, the single player doesn't solely focus on this. This new iteration features more challenges, side content, and levels that are genuinely just fun to play through. There's one level in particular that challenged me to survive for a minute without any ink. It felt like that level in Super Mario Sunshine where you lost your water pack, only way more fair feeling this time. If you missed out on the Octo expansion from Splatoon 2, you can get access to that for free as part of the premium Switch Online subscription, by the way. A lot of those ideas are expanded upon in this entry, and it's all for the better. Splatoon has always been a multiplayer series at heart, but I think for the first time, the single player feels the most robust it's ever been, to the point of just feeling like there could be a single player game here alone. With that said, multiplayer still is the heart and soul of Splatoon, and a lot of it will feel familiar if you played a prior game. Instead, the biggest changes to multiplayer are refinements across the board, like new practice lobbies, being able to change weapons and stay in a party, better friend lobbies, and new enemies for Salmon Run. The main attraction to multiplayer is still, of course, Turf Wars. This is a 4v4 match on a symmetrical map where players compete to cover the map in their team's colored ink. Using your weapons, sub-weapons, tactical abilities, and special attacks, you'll splat your way towards victory. These battles are paced perfectly, making them quick to get into and quick to jump into another. Even after an L train, it was hard to stay upset for too long as every match felt quick. The structure of the game mode also allows for major comebacks like you'd expect out of Mario Kart, only a lot more fair. A nice addition to this mode is the ability to choose where you spawn. Instead of having a dedicated area to spawn, you launch yourself somewhere around that area, helping to stop any possible spawn camping. If you've ever experienced the issue of trying to matchmake with friends and ending up in a completely different team in Splatoon 2, that's been completely fixed with this game. Now you can choose to regroup with the same team and even go back to the training lobby to change or try out new weapons while still matchmaking in the background. It's a little change on paper, but a major improvement for the series. You can even save replays and send them to your friends through special codes, something that, in retrospective, how did Splatoon beat Valorant to that? I digress. A lot of maps from prior games also make their way back with this entry. While not all of them are back, and some more new maps would be great, it'd be very unlike Splatoon to stay that way, so expect some more content to come in either a new Splatfest or an update that introduces more multiplayer content, but what is here is a great start. What does get more changes are the weapons. Weapons from prior games have been balanced out, changed to have new specials, and generally there are a lot new specials and weapons overall. The Tri-Stinger is Splatoon's version of a bow and arrow that shoots 3 arrows at once, or one charge shot. It's a nifty new addition to the weapon arsenal. The Zipcaster is a new favorite special that lets you quickly launch toward a wall and then get to jump on an enemy in an almost Spider-Man-like fashion. I had no idea that this would fit in Splatoon so well, but I love it. Other game modes outside of Turf Wars return, like Tower Control and Ranked mode and the popular Salmon Run, now available 24/7 instead of just at specific times. And while Nintendo is finally lining up on curating content for when it's available, it hasn't completely lost that just yet. Unfortunately, you're still pushed to play Turf Wars first, and not until you level up a few times can you begin to buy new weapons, play other game modes, and so on. I understand the logic behind it, seeing as Turf Wars is the most welcoming game mode, but I still don't think it should be forced. Even cosmetic features like changing your locker, a new collectible feature in the game, is blocked off until you reach level 4. I do appreciate that Nintendo offers the ability to import your data from Splatoon 2 and skip a lot of the hassle. However, if you ended up buying a new Switch after Splatoon launch, then you probably lost that save to begin with. Splatoon 3 continues the series' trend of being a stylish third-person shooter, characterized by the cool aesthetic of the early 2000s skating culture, from the design of the maps you're playing on, the clothing your character can wear, and the design of collectibles. Splatoon has this inherent coolness to it. Weapons have such unique yet fun little attention to details, like using a bucket as a heavy-duty short-range weapon, a giant toy mallet as a special attack, to the new sling ability that lets you feel like a superhero. On paper, a shooter where you just shoot ink to cover a map and can turn into a squid doesn't sound like it makes any sense or has a sense of direction, and yet in action, it's one of the best presentations I've seen in a game this year. As far as performance goes, you can expect a 720p dynamic in handheld mode and 1080p dynamic resolution in dock mode. If you're in the city landscape, the game will lock to 30 frames per second and max out the resolution, something the series has always done to present the city in the best detail possible. When you switch over to traditional gameplay, the gameplay will prioritize 60 frames per second, and rarely does it ever drop below that. It's a smart system that prioritizes the right things in given situations. I did want to give props to Nintendo for also having the option to lock colors for ink in this game. While I personally don't have an issue with seeing the ink on the screen, for those that struggle to see certain color hues, you can now lock colors to better see things during gameplay. A small but appreciated accessibility feature. Splatoon's signature rock-heavy soundtrack is back with new tracks for not only the single player, but also the staple parts of the multiplayer. I've always been a bit wary of changing the sound effects and music for Splatoon, because the first game set a really high bar. Luckily, the music here is fantastic and already starting to get into my head. I often found myself humming the multiplayer map matches, or just mimicking the end result screen as my team collectively guessed if some random puddle of ink was enough to get us the win for that match. From a sound design perspective, a lot of the little touches return for this third iteration. The HD rumble supports subtle actions like swimming through ink or spotting an enemy. Sound mixing is similar to prior entries too, but unfortunately, you don't have the option to manually mix things to your liking. Splatoon 3 is the closest the series has been to everything I've ever wanted it to be. The single player content is seeing a major overhaul with plenty of new content, a redesign of the structure, and fun new lore. Multiplayer sees fewer major core changes, and applies refinements instead, like better matchmaking, a replay system, readily available game modes, and quality of life improvements. It left the parts that worked untouched, while fixing the smaller issues I had with prior entries, including cloud save support finally. With future Splatfests, new maps, and weapons, Splatoon 3 is no doubt going to live an active life for the next few years. The only thing I can majorly see changing in a future installment is the performance on a more powerful device. But until then, I'll be playing this one.